Newly unearthed and diabolical court docs have been unsealed that help us understand more about what happened to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Reading this did not make me feel better in any type of way. I want to just reiterate that I I don't know how I feel about the actual investigation, if I feel like the grand jury is proceeding as it should. I don't know how I feel yet. I'm going to go through everything with you guys right now. I'm going to break down exactly what I found, what it means, and where it came from. I first want to also say this is not an indictment. So David has not been indicted. What the document is that I'm about to pull up is an appendix for basically an appeal in Texas. And you guys have heard me report on this before, but essentially what happened is these documents were filed under seal in Los Angeles, but they became public after David's father, mother, and brother challenged subpoenas in Texas, where they're from, compelling them to testify before a California grand jury. So they filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, and that was in Texas. And in this docket where the writ was submitted or filed, this is where all the other documentation came from. Again, it wasn't sealed. There was a motion to seal it, but that didn't happen. And also their habeas writ was denied. So it was denied on February 9th. And as of February 24th, that was the last day that the family had to submit anything further or appeal further. And I didn't see anything in the public docket. So I'm kind of wondering, have they testified yet? Did they push back their testimony? And does it actually matter? Because I'm fairly certain they're just going to plead the fifth anyway. I did reach out to the attorneys, the Burke's attorneys. I didn't hear back. I also reached out to the LADA's office, who responded back to my email, which the subject line was the people versus David Burke. They responded back within a second and they were like, nope, we're not commenting. So let me pull up these documents. So, and also I want to point out which it was included in this docket, just a little more texture and color as to why the Burkes filed these subpoenas legally. I mean, we can all speculate as to why they don't want to testify, of course, but legally speaking, the Burke said, this subpoena is violating our right to due process because it's referring to a case, the people versus David Burke, but there's all these redactions in our copy and the judge doesn't have any redactions. So we're over here wondering, like, we don't know the details of this case and why it's so important for us to fly to California to be these material witnesses. We just don't, we don't understand. And a judge was just like, yeah, California, they did everything correctly. They dotted all their I's, crossed their T's. Like, there's nothing more we can do here. So that's why they felt like their due process was violated. So again, let me get to what we found. And again, this is not an indictment, but it is extremely chilling. I mean, extremely. So first of all, if you go to the bottom, you will see that it says wherein target, and obviously the target is David Burke. So they're referring to David as the target, and they're saying wherein target may be involved in having committed the following criminal offenses against the laws of the state of California. And then it says 1 count of red rum. It doesn't say anything else. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, there are potentially other charges that he could be facing, right? Celeste was a minor. And also there were reports that her body was not whole. Well, per this document, let's keep going. And by the way, what I just said, I'm going to remind you once again, this is not an indictment. So this doesn't mean that David can't be charged with those things, at another time. Or, and let me just make myself a little bigger for this, if he was not the one that, I don't know how to say this sometimes without YouTube censoring me, but if David was not the one who made her body the way it was and it was someone else, could they be charged? Could someone else be charged, right? We'll wait and see. So let's get this smaller again, or me smaller, sorry. But if you go down to the, let me see, the second to last paragraph, basically it says that detectives obtained a search warrant for the vehicle, and when the front storage compartment was opened, detectives observed a black cadaver bag covered with insects and a strong odor of decay. Utilizing black latex gloves, detectives partially unzipped the bag and observed a decomposing, I'm just pointing to yes, and yeah, it's insane, a head and torso. Yeah. So it doesn't say frozen, by the way, which, I obviously did not think her body was found in a frozen state. I think when TMZ reported that, what they were trying to say is they spoke to someone at the medical examiner's office who tested her tissue and found that at one point in time, the body was frozen and then it unthawed. But he used, or allegedly, or somebody used, a cadaver bag. That is diabolical. Guys, that is something that the coroner's office used. I mean, the hospital uses. The funeral homes. I mean, this is not something that a lay person generally purchases. So they should have, purchase receipts from David, you would think, or someone in his orbit, and also fingerprints. I would think that there could be possibly fingerprints on that bag. I mean, they could have used gloves, but there's got to be more there, and there's got to be, I guess, more of a reason why they are going after David, besides the fact that she was found in his car. Because if it was that simple, then right, he already would have been arrested. But I'm guessing that, they obviously have incomplete evidence here. Maybe they couldn't get a full match on the DNA. It's mind-blowing. It's literally mind-blowing, a cadaver bag. Then it says underneath, let me see. Okay. Investigators and criminalists from the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiners responded to the tow yard to process the decomposed body. Upon removing the cadaver bag from the front storage compartment, it was discovered the arms and legs had been severed from the body, and a second black bag was discovered underneath the cadaver bag. And upon opening that bag, the dismembered body parts were found. And it's truly evil. Truly. I have nothing more to say except for, when are we going to see an arrest? Literally. What more do we need here? I don't know. I don't know at this point. We have evidence in photographs that David and Celeste were friends. We have that. She was a minor. We have evidence that she was found in his car, literally, in pieces. Just arrest him. I mean, okay. So what we've seen and what we've unearthed here today, I believe is pointing towards the fact that the LADA's office is doing everything in their power to get these witnesses to testify. I'm just not sure it's going to be good enough at this point if they're all going to plead the fifth. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Neo knows something, Neo Langston. I really believe that he and David were best friends. He has to know something. Why plead the fifth if you don't? Literally, why? Anyway, guys, head to lamag.com. I don't mean to get emotional. Sorry. I am trying to just strictly report on this. But yes, head to lamag.com. I also have the article in the episode notes here. And I also just want to add quickly just the timeline here of the Burke family testifying. They were served these subpoenas on January 15th. And on the 15th, they were told through these subpoenas that they have to go testify before a Los Angeles grand jury on the February 11th. And it also said, yeah, you won't be needed for more than 3 days. And, we will take care of your flights, your lodging, all of that stuff, the DA's office. And the family had 2 different hearings, one on January 23rd and the other one on February 2nd. And the one on February 2nd, that hearing, a judge did tell the family, you guys have to go testify. Go. And then on the 6th, that's when they filed the habeas or the stay. And then on the 9th, that's when it was rejected by a judge. And I also mentioned on the 24th, they had the option, their last ditch effort to refile, appeal, whatever. I didn't see anything there. So who knows? I'm assuming that they either flew to LA to testify and plead the 5th, or they've pushed this back. I'm not sure. But anyway, again, I will stay on top of this. Thank you all so much for listening and for being engaged with this case. It is so sad. And this little girl just deserves so much better. So I'm Lauren Conlin, and justice for Celeste.